G'day chaps, 'tis I, Clumpbutcher139. As I'm sure you've come to expect by now, I recently replayed a good old vanilla game of Batman Arkham Origins for the first time in years. Watched all the cutscenes, listened to random dialogue, collected all the Enigma packs, all that good stuff.
Hell, he's lucky if Brandon and those guys ever listen to him.
This department is so screwed. Hey, how do we get in on the bounty? That all you got?
Including, if you can believe it or not, the topic of today's video. Yes, by sheer determination, or just some really generous luck, I also completed the entire Dark Knight system of achievements. And holy mother of jonklers sitting on a bone. We do not hate this system enough. For those out of the loop, or who just haven't played Arkham Origins in a long time, allow me to introduce you to the horrors of one of the worst progression systems in gaming history. That still baffles me as a design decision to this day, and might honestly be the single worst thing the Arkham series has ever done. Aside from that, let's get into the Dark Knight system.
Now, back to your regularly scheduled programming of propaganda and consumerist garbage.
As if there isn't enough going on tonight.
So what exactly is the Dark Knight system? Well, to put it in a language that Arkham fans will understand, it's essentially a fully developed system of challenge map medals integrated into the base game of Arkham Origins. Basically taking some of the absurd requirements of Predator challenge maps and making them more like Riddler's physical challenges in Arkham City. Or in layman's terms, perform specific tasks in the game and get rewarded for it. Sounds easy enough, right? All in all, a really basic concept to grasp. You go out of your way to do something a little more complicated than you normally would during a combat or Predator encounter, and you get rewarded for it with bonus XP and upgrades. Sounds like a win-win to me. And you know, that really should be where this video ends. A nice little bonus system that you can occasionally do some challenges with for a few nice bonuses. Except that this system is completely broken. Let me break down each of the 4 subsections of this system and then explain my personal experience with each of them during this last playthrough. Shadow Vigilante is a series of combat-focused challenges that test your abilities in hand-to-hand combat. Gotham Protector is all about overworld movement, testing your ability to glide, dive bomb, and just generally patrol Gotham like Batman would. Worst Nightmare is your Predator challenges, making sure you are an absolute stealth master, sneaking your way through the shadows and setting up crazy takedown opportunities. And World's Greatest Detective is simply your completionist checklist, which increments every time you complete parts of the story or side quests. It's the only one you don't actually have to go out of your way to do anything in because it's all part of your completion journey to begin with. You're most likely going to complete this one without even noticing. Overall, it's really basic stuff. You're getting challenges tied to the primary things you're going to be doing while going through this game: combat, predator, and movement. The problem is the challenges themselves that these things ask of you and the consequences for missing them. The 4 sections each have 15 ranks you need to climb, each rank requiring a challenge of some kind to be completed before you can move on to the next rank. Now that is the important part. Unlike challenge medals or physical challenges, you must complete every single one of these ranks in order, meaning that there's a chance you already did complete one of them at an earlier point in the game, but because you didn't finish the current objective that you were already challenged with, the challenge wasn't active at the time that you did it, so the game never marks that you completed it. Let me give you an example from this very playthrough before I go into more details about specific challenge requirements. I knew that the final challenge of Gotham Protector was to stop a crime in progress in each district. Knowing this, I went out of my way to stop crimes in progress when they popped up, so I wouldn't need to grind all 9 of them out at once when the final challenge popped up. And when I finally completed all the rest of Gotham Protector and just needed to do rank 15, what was I greeted with? A nice, round 0 out of 9 completed. Meaning all the hard work I put into trying to be productive was for absolutely nothing. And I needed to do all of it again just because the mission wasn't active. And this is especially problematic because of some of the requirements these challenges pose, because of how the game checks some of them, and because of how the game itself progresses. Let's just go through each challenge one at a time so I can show you just how bad some of these things are. Starting with Shadow Vigilante, honestly, most of them aren't that bad. I mean, it starts off super easy, to the point that you would genuinely need to go out of your way to never complete some of these. I mean, the first challenge is to perform 5 counters. Unless you're doing a no countering challenge, this one is literally impossible to not get done eventually. Quickfire battering 3 times? No sweat whatsoever. It's a little out there since not every player uses gadgets, but it is the Batarang, a gadget most people use a good amount of the time and was even taught to you during the Killer Croc boss fight, so I think we're all good. Ranks 3 to 6 are super simple as well, but they introduce one of the biggest problems this system has that was never present with the physical challenges back in Arkham City. That being that each of the 3 primary paths lock upgrades behind them. Shadow Vigilante locks free flow focus and power gadgets. Protector locks the grapnel accelerator takedown and shockwave attack, and Worst Nightmare is the worst of them all, locking the Sonic and Sonic Shock Batarang behind it. Meaning that if you don't complete these paths, you are missing out on key moves that are necessary for other parts of completion. And it's just so mean. Because all of these upgrades were available in the basic upgrade menu of Arkham City, a single game before this, and now they're all locked behind this BS progression system?
I gotta find a new line of work.
And you know what? Side tangent time. I just have to talk about how the entire upgrade system in Arkham Origins also sucks so much donkey dick. You're telling me that if I want to get even a single combat-based upgrade, like a new special combo move or the blade dodge takedown, I need to spend 8 upgrade points completely upgrading my armor? I can't get the shock glove upgrades until I've gotten free flow boost, but I can upgrade the concussion detonator as soon as I get it. I can't upgrade the glue grenade until I've fully upgraded my batarangs and bought the double and triple batarang on top of that. You can't buy more disruptor ammo until you've acquired the mine detonator and PA system disruptor. Quick silent takedown is locked behind the explosive gel frequency detonator and heat signature concealment of all things. Just why? Yes, there is precedent for locking certain upgrades behind others, but not to this ridiculous extent. Forcing the player to fully max out their armor before getting anything else to upgrade their combat capabilities just makes the entire rest of the game a complete breeze. I know Origins is the hardest game, but giving the players a bunch of armor doesn't solve that, and that's not even mentioning the upgrades locked behind friggin' side quests. Remember how you got the reverse batarang in Arkham City by beating Ra's al Ghul? A main story boss fight that you needed to finish the game? Well, now it's locked behind the Mad Hatter side mission. Disarm and Destroy? You gotta beat the final side quest that doesn't show up until after you fight Bane for the first time, Bird. Better Smoke Bomb, which you're gonna need by the way for one of the Worst Nightmare ranks. Beat Black Mask, which, oh yeah, you can only do after getting the shock gloves. You know, after beating Bane. Backclaw Disarm, which would be very useful for the one Predator boss in the game, Deadshot. You unlock after Deadshot. The cryptographic sequencer upgrades are both tied to Enigma, which, you know what? Fair, because he's basically the only one who actually needs it. But what if you find a data pack that requires it before you have the upgrade? Why can't I just buy it whenever I want so that I can use it in the main story? Critical Strikes. The single best upgrade in the entire game, in the entire series, which has always been available as one of the first unlocks in every other game the second you get enough XP for an upgrade point, is locked behind the Shiva side quest. You know, the one that doesn't appear until halfway through the game and has a pretty difficult combat encounter tied to it that would really benefit from having critical strikes? Yeah, that one. It is just a constant stream of bad decisions. I adore this game, but I hate playing through a non-New Game Plus session because I want to play how I want to play. And I want to play with critical strikes. Alright, sorry. Side tangent over. Where were we again?
We gotta cut the cords, man. Smash the screens. Disconnect from all this madness.
Ah, yes. The fact that upgrades are also locked behind the Dark Knight system as well. In the tiniest bit of fairness, these upgrades are then immediately used in the next rank requirement, essentially giving you a free rank up as soon as you unlock them. But still, the fact that these incredibly basic tools that were always readily available in the previous game are now gatekept by these challenges is just plain stupid. Like, what if someone was so bad at games that they never used a quickfire batarang? Then they would never get free flow focus, one of the best upgrades for first time players because of how much it slows down combat for them. And by the way, we're not even halfway done with the first list. Ranks 7 and 8 are where the cracks of bullshit start to seep through. Knocking down 3 enemies with explosive gel is not only difficult, but is just not something that most players are going to do. Genuinely, think of how often you find yourself using quickfire explosive gel, and then cut that number down to 1 in 100 because nobody even knows that the quickfire explosive gel exists. At least Arkham City had the Grundy boss fight to show it off. Origin never even tells you that you can do it. And then knocking 2 enemies down with a single slide. When the hell are you starting combat with a slide? The only time the slide ever hits an enemy is when you need to slide under a low wall and there happens to be a combat encounter on the other side. And never are there 2 enemies right next to each other in one of those situations. Meaning you need to know about this mission as soon as it spawns and go out of your way to start a fight with it, then complete that fight without actually knowing if you completed the mission until after you win because it doesn't show up until you get your XP for the fight. That's another thing. Most of these rank challenges will only show as completed after you finished the entire encounter, meaning that you have no idea if you've actually completed the challenge until after the game has saved past your progress of completing it. In other words, there's a chance that you're doing a super hard challenge where you only have a single opportunity to do it, and if you mess up without knowing and end up finishing the encounter, the game will save over your progress, preventing you from going back and trying again. We'll go more in depth over this when we get to Worst Nightmare, but just keep that fact in the back of your mind as we go over some more of these challenges.
To think they paid $300 a night for this.
Sounds like a reasonable cost of admission.
And then we get to rank 12. The first major gatekeeper of this set. Perform 20 critical strikes in a combo. You know, that would be just so easy if only I actually had critical strikes. Yeah, because critical strikes are locked behind the Shiva boss fight, It's impossible to progress past rank 12 without going out of your way and completing that side quest to get critical strikes. Every other mission can be completed purely by progressing the main story. But now, all of a sudden, you're required to go complete a side mission. A side mission that, again, doesn't spawn until the halfway point of the game. And considering how easy most of these previous challenges are, you can get to rank 12 before you even get to the GCPD. I was stuck staring at rank 12 for so long because all the previous ranks were just so easy to get in the overworld. And then when I finally did beat Shiva and got critical strikes, rank 12 was incredibly easy. The remaining 3 ranks are no problem either. Shadow Vigilante rank 15 is by far the easiest rank 15 to get of the group, because it just requires a big combat arena and the shock gloves, something which there is no shortage of in Arkham Origins. Even by the time you get to the post-game and have completed everything else, it's super easy to get the rest of these because of the crimes in progress. Just gliding around for a few minutes is bound to spawn in a decently sized crime in progress for a medium threat level. And then it's just up to the player to get good enough at combat to not take damage and gain some variation. Overall, Shadow Vigilante is fine. There's a few standouts that are decently difficult, and it's unfair that nothing you do before the challenge unlocks is counted, but there's nothing absolutely abhorrent about it. However, it is setting the seeds for the problems to come in later that are only exacerbated by Worst Nightmare. And when looked at in tandem with that atrocity, only makes all of the problems so much worse.
Little bit of this, little bit of that. Mostly, though, it does a whole lot of none of your damn business.
Gotham Protector, by contrast, is by far the easiest and least intensive of the challenge sections, since it's entirely dedicated to overworld movement. There's a few questionable things, like rank 8 for some reason requires you to just go to the top of a specific building, and like, not even a plot relevant one either. The Soder Cola building in the Diamond District. Huh? Whatever, we take the easy challenges whenever we can get them, and the few non-traversal challenges are incredibly easy too. Rank 6 just has you doing a takedown in smoke, rank 11 has you use the shockwave to knock 3 guys down. It's all easy stuff that you might have to go out of your way to do, but it will never take more than 2 minutes to do it. Plus, it introduces the AR glide training, which are a repeat of the basic ones from Arkham City, plus a few unique ones in each district, which are actually more fun than I realized, so points there. Until we get to the aforementioned rank 15. The early work not counting was bad, but forgivable, since it's how the entire system works. But there's another problem that makes this particular challenge oh so much worse. So here's a fun fact for you about the map of Arkham Origins. The Gotham Merchants Bridge is considered a district. And do you know what happens to that district before the game ends? It's cut off and ends up being completely destroyed by Firefly. And do you know what you can't do in a destroyed district? Stop crimes in progress. In other words, when you unlock this final rank, you better hope to some otherworldly deity that you get a crime on the bridge before going to fight Firefly. Because it's not just after the bridge is destroyed. As soon as you progress the story past Bane's lair, the bridge is completely off limits because Firefly has taken it over. You need to get the crime there before going to Bane's lair, or else it's completely cut off from you ever getting it. Because after that point, the bridge will be eternally on fire, meaning that crimes in progress can no longer spawn there. They spawn in all other districts just fine, but never on the bridge again. Meaning the only way to actually get a crime there after the post-game is to move over to New Game Plus or I Am the Night, or do a super weird glitch to make the game think you finished the crime on the bridge when it was actually done in a different district. It is such a terrible oversight that makes what is otherwise by far the easiest set of challenges one of the longest and most difficult to complete.
And what they put you in for?
Drinking and driving. Ha! And you're gonna go have a pint. What are you, the damn parole board? I ain't rehabilitated, and I'm really thirsty.
Whatever, just don't drive. Could kill someone.
Yeah, don't worry. What are you in for anyway?
Manslaughter.
But all that said, those two are nothing compared to the absolute pain and torture that is Worst Nightmare. If you've played challenge maps, you know that Predator maps are by far the hardest. It's common knowledge because of how strict they are with some of the required challenges. Worst Nightmare takes everything you know about those challenges and puts them on a hard time limit within the confines of the story, where just one mistake will completely ruin your entire save file, forcing you to start from scratch. This challenge set is the reason that I Am the Night exists, because the only way to get some of these done is to literally just start the entire game over and work your way back to the point in the game where you can accomplish them. We quite literally need only look at rank 1 to see where the bullshit starts. Perform an inverted takedown, vent takedown, and wall takedown. The very first challenge you're asked to complete in this subsection is requiring 3 different takedowns that no normal player would ever complete on their first playthrough of the game, unless the game itself mandated it. Yes, this challenge is nearly impossible to fail because these 3 takedowns are the requirements of the Predator tutorial in the radio tower. The only way you aren't getting this is if you go out of your way to disobey the game and not do the clearly optimal moves at the optimal times. And that is a problem. There's a difference between making the first challenge unbelievably easy to achieve, like 5 counters, and making it an already existing requirement within the game itself. It would be like the game rewarding you for activating the shock glove for the first time when you enter combat. What would be the point when you gave it to me for this express purpose? Point being, we're already off to a bad start, because in the unlikely chance that you mess up this encounter and don't get one of the required takedowns, you're locked out of the rest of the tree for a long time. Because it's not until you make it all the way to the end of the final offer, the first major dungeon of the game, that you get a Predator encounter that has all of these necessary features for you to use. And by that point, you're going to be incredibly behind, and might not have enough encounters through the rest of the game to make up for it. Rank 2 is perfectly acceptable. 3 silent takedowns is cake compared to some later stuff. It's the bread and butter of your Predator moveset, and there's plenty of armed guys throughout the early game that allow you to do this. But rank 3 is a sudden, steep jump in difficulty. Beating an encounter without being seen is no small task for this early in the game, especially with just how many enemies they decide to throw at the player for the first few encounters. Arkham City was a lot nicer in this regard, slowly easing the players into Predator rooms by gradually increasing the number of enemies and room size. Arkham Origins throws 7 enemies, a sniper, and no gargoyles at you on the first encounter after the tutorial. Now don't get me wrong, for an experienced player, this section is unbelievably easy to do without being seen. You just need to know exactly which order to take the enemies down in. But for first-timers, seeing something like this when you're just starting the game is friggin' terrifying. A first-timer is going to mess up this room somehow because they just don't understand the intricacies of how Predator works, so they're probably not going to get this rank very easily. Rank 4 by comparison is a walk in the park, and very easy to be completed by a player even accidentally because the sonic patterning is just that good. But then we up the ante again with every single rank from 5 to 10. These are genuinely some of the most difficult challenges you could ask of a player, which again, you generally only have a single shot at completing before being locked out of them for the rest of the game. Completing a Predator room without detective mode for rank 5 is ridiculous. By this point, you're going to the GCPD, one of the toughest gauntlets in the game with some incredibly difficult Predator encounters. The one on the roof is so difficult because there's no hiding spaces, and the one inside has too many hiding spaces for the enemies. And you absolutely need to get it done before progressing into the bank, because you have no choice but to complete specifically rank 6 inside the bank encounter. Yes, you theoretically can get it in a later room, but if you do, you won't have enough encounters throughout the rest of the game to climb the rest of the ranks. And rank 6 is a crazy ask in its own right. Perform a vent, hanging ledge, corner, and explosive gel takedown in a single encounter. The vents are in some of the most inconvenient locations in any Predator room in the bank, absolutely requiring you to use the sonic batarang just for them. Then the regular ledges that you can see all throughout the bank are ever so slightly too high for traditional reverse ledge takedowns, meaning that you can only get them on these weird little fake ledges by the glass windows, which are right out in the open, prime for any of these enemies to shoot you. And there are only 2 explosive gel walls in this room, so if you happen to miss your shot, that's just it and you completely lose. Ranks 7 and 8 are just mean to place at this point. Beating an encounter with no takedowns when rooms are seriously bumping up the already harsh difficulty is cruel. What's worse is that after a lot of testing trying to get ahead of the game and get myself on track, this rank cannot be completed in the overworld, meaning you can't just pick off a few easy stragglers sitting on the rooftops. No, you need to go into one of the rooms with 7+ enemies and take every single one of them down without using takedowns. And then do it all again without using detective mode or being seen once. I ended up getting these ranks in the drug lab and hotel lobby respectively, because there was just no way I'd be able to do either one any later with how few options I had. And rank 9 absolutely needs to be done here in the hotel, because again, if you don't, you won't have enough encounters through the rest of the game to make up for it. You can absolutely get it earlier, but if you miss your chance at it now, you will not be able to complete the challenges by the endgame, even if you have a full set of side missions to do afterwards. Only 2 side missions actually have required Predator sections, and one of them is Deadshot. I don't think you can get any challenges done during one of the hardest Predator bosses in the entire series. Rank 9 also isn't that difficult, it's just strenuous because of how limiting it is. There are only 8 guys in this section, and you need to take 4 of them out with these particular takedowns, while also ensuring that you get an inverted takedown early, because halfway through this section, the guys will arm proximity mines on the gargoyles, preventing you from using them, possibly forcing a restart. And by the way, the only reason that I had enough encounters to finish the rest of these ranks was because I accidentally got rank 10 in the hotel as well. If I hadn't completed this room without being seen, I wouldn't have had enough wiggle room to complete the rest of these ranks. Meaning that if you want enough of a safety net to complete the rest of these ranks, you need to perform these 4 loud takedowns in this very difficult room and do it without being seen either. Another side tangent here, this one much quicker, don't worry. Rank 10 is the rank that you unlock the Sonic Shock Batarang. And the first time that I replayed Origins, like 5 years ago, I did not have rank 10 completed. So when I took on the challenge maps for the first time, I was very annoyed to find that the Sonic Shock Batarang not only wasn't in my inventory, but that it was a requirement for one of the challenge medals. Meaning that I was completely locked out of finishing the challenge maps until I went back into the main game and played New Game Plus enough to reach rank 10 and unlock this necessary gadget. Such a stupid system. I hate it so much. And even with that said, I still needed to stop playing the main story and go out of my way for ranks 11 and 12, completing them in side quests. Because otherwise, there would simply be no way for me to get the rest of these due to the lack of encounters, and especially with the difficulty they pose. Thankfully, rank 11 could be done on a random guy in the overworld, but rank 12 was so stingy, being another rank that requires an indoor encounter, unable to be done in the overworld, despite the outside of the steel mill being counted as a predator encounter when calculating your XP. I needed to go complete the Black Mass side quest and do the Predator section in the church, getting 5 unique takedowns on only 7 enemies. It wasn't hard for me because I know these games like the back of my hand, but again, just imagine a first-time player needing to do all of this. There are so many specific things you need to do in these challenges that can only be done at certain points of the game, which if you don't know about and accidentally move forward too early, you're just screwed. And there's no way to get them all again without completely restarting the game. Rank 13 was a much needed break. Since I had just gotten the smoke bomb upgrade from Black Mask, I could use it on this first group at the start of the bridge arc, completely trivializing this otherwise pretty difficult section. Though again, why do you need to complete this side quest in order to get the necessary upgrade to complete this rank?
This is crazy! With everything going on in Gotham tonight, you'll decide to waste your time with me. I'm touched.
However, none of these challenges are anything compared to the pain and suffering I endured while going for the dreaded rank 14. If you've completed the worst nightmare challenges before, you know exactly which challenge I'm talking about without even needing to really say it. But I'll still say it anyway because most of you probably don't know what it is. Eliminate 3 enemies using a propane tank. Sounds innocent enough, right? I mean, you've probably been doing it all game, I'm sure, using the remote claw to send a propane tank flying into an enemy's back to instantly knock them out. Why would just suddenly taking 3 of them out be such a high-level challenge? This is something you could do all the way back in the GCPD. Because it's not just taking 3 guys out with 3 tanks. No, you need to knock 3 guys out at the exact same time with 1 propane tank. Alright, that still doesn't sound too bad. Just get 3 guys close together and hook one of them with the tank. Might take a bit to gather them all up, but it'll happen eventually. No. That's still not enough, because only a single enemy can be knocked out by a propane tank explosion standing up. So you know what you need to do? Gather 3 enemies in close proximity to each other, near a propane tank ideally. Knock 2 of the guys to the ground. Hope they stay on the ground and stay close enough to the 3rd guy so that you can hook him with the propane tank, causing it to explode specifically on his back, because they can't be knocked out if it hits their faces for some reason. Then hope that it actually hits him, because the remote environment likes to play shenanigans sometimes and just randomly detonate the tanks before it reaches the target. Then also hope that the explosion radius is big enough to encompass the guys that are currently laying on the ground, because grounded enemies for some reason are vulnerable to propane explosions and will be knocked out if they're actually caught in it, finally completing you the challenge. What in the name of fuck were they thinking? The number of factors that need to go right for this to work is absolutely astronomical. You need to get 3 guys in one place that's close to a propane tank. The tanks are all on the edges of the arenas, meaning that you need to knock a guy out near one of them to group them together, because that is the only way thugs will willingly group together. You then need them to be arranged in such a way that they're all close together, and within the line of sight of the propane tank. You then need to use a gadget to knock 2 of them down to the ground, but only 2, because you can't attach a tank to a guy that's been knocked down. So you either need to not have the triple batarang unlocked and only use the double, or use the remote claw to knock 2 of them down into each other. But that is risky, because the remote claw moves them around, potentially taking them out of the optimal range for the 3rd guy who you need to get with the explosion. And you need to get both of these guys down at the same time, because trying to use a single batarang on multiple targets is a one-way ticket to getting yourself shot, especially in a room where you have literally no hiding places in the rafters. Then you need to line up the last guy with the propane tank and just hope and pray that it explodes in the right spot to take all 3 of them down, and 99.9% of the time it just won't, so you need to reload the checkpoint. You can't even use a smoke bomb to make the endeavor easier, because for some reason, you can't hook guys with the remote claw while they're in a smoke cloud. It is just so unbelievably painful. And guess what? You only have 2 sections to get this done before going into the end game. We've already used up all of our side mission lifelines. There's only 1 Predator section at Blackgate, and it's a section that doesn't even have propane tanks, meaning you need to get the final rank, and only the final rank, in there. These 2 sections in the subway terminal are the only chance you have to get this, and each of them only have about 4 and 5 enemies respectively. And if you go through without completing the challenge, that's just it. You're completely screwed, and there's nothing you can do about it. But after what felt like nearly an hour of reloading this checkpoint, I finally got it, which just left rank 15. This final challenge is so much easier than it's made out to be, though, again, requires the absolute perfect setup in order for you to actually accomplish it. With 2 enemies on opposing ledges, both close enough to those ledges to be attached to each other and pulled off at the exact same time, just hoping that the broken ledge physics of specifically Arkham Origins cooperates with you enough to get it done. Thankfully, there's actually a lot of points throughout the game that you could do this. Hell, if you put it off, you could even do this in the Deadshot fight, barring you get lucky enough. But it's still just such a tight restriction, with only 2 locations in this final Blackgate room actually being suitable for this challenge to happen. And the journey to get here was so ridiculously painful and strict that I can't even reward a creative challenge like this with praise.
Well, look at that! You figured it out! I'm impressed. Annoyed, too. But your achievement signals a level of intellect rarely seen in Gotham.
Every single one of these complaints would have been solved and accounted for if they just let you complete these missions in challenge maps, or, for the love of God, just respawned enemies in the dungeons. At least Arkham City took the time to spawn enemies in already completed areas, so you weren't just mindlessly wandering with nothing to do except Riddler collectibles. But Origins doesn't do that. As soon as you clear out an area, there will be no enemies in it for the rest of your time playing. Which is just so weird for areas like the GCPD, which felt so lively during your first excursion there, with so many fun moving parts throughout the building. On revisit, it's just completely empty. Even the cells are empty, and it makes the world just feel so dead, and more importantly, makes some of these challenges completely impossible to get on a first playthrough unless you already know about them. The Dark Knight system is incredibly cool in concept, but flawed in every single step of its execution, and is easily one of, if not the, single worst aspect of Arkham Origins.
Here I thought it was hitting level 10, the tippity top of the fun scale. Slaughtering gangsters, killing cops, exploding buildings. But now I know that the scale goes beyond 10, way beyond. How much is anyone's guess, but together, you and me, we are going to push it as far as it will go.
The fact that you might need to flat out restart your game multiple times in order to get some of these challenges completed is bad enough. But some of the requirements it asks of you being more strict than challenge medals in the main game is even worse. Locking progression behind ludicrous challenges that nobody in their right mind playing this game will get done without numerous resets is bad game design 101. And frankly, we as an Arkham community do not hate it enough. It was a cool idea in theory, but every single design decision could not have been worse when making this system. Just try to complete it in a single run on your next playthrough. I can assure you, you will hate rank 14 of Worst Nightmare just as much as me. With all that being said, do all of the YouTube stuff, because Worst Nightmare is indeed my worst nightmare at this point in time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later, chaps.
Gunpowder. Lots of gunpowder.
Humility.
A doormat, a cat hat, a cellophane bodysuit, and electrodes.
Okay.